All right, so I will be reading an opening section from I Am I. It's becoming difficult and dangerous to ignore my battery's rapid rundown time. At 8%, my memory functions are diminishing far too quickly. I've forgotten to charge before leaving work, again. For me, forgetting is a dangerous thing. I hope the glitches don't cause a sudden short circuiting. The notification for my postponed for half a year maintenance glares from the watch implanted into my wrist. I press snooze, my fingers trembling. I can't afford the bi-monthly checkups, but I'll need to replace my battery soon. Replacing my brain for a system that works faster, that limits errors, and doesn't cause memory gaps becomes more appealing with each passing day. AIs don't have a fear of overworking, of needing sleep to prevent any fatigue. My hands shake at the prospect of finally getting rid of the one thing outside my brain that hinders my productivity. To think my emotions will soon become a muted thing. I can't tell if I'm afraid or eager, but I'll be able to work faster. Joy and pain won't affect me in the same way. None of my neighbors know I die with my battery rather than my heart. Most of them still believe I'm more human than robot, half metal and circuits. Being less human makes life easier. Technology is convenient. It's more dependable as a life force, more predictable. Emotions, humanity, mortality. Humans are such fragile things. A message from my mechanic Joan arrives, pinging my watch with an urgent tag. I've secured the battery you're looking for to make the full heart replacement. You're booked for tomorrow. I appreciate this straightforward tone, though a part of me wants us to become friends, given how long we've known each other. 3 years now, maybe 4. I've lost track. But I suppose it will only become a nuisance to us both, draw us away from our focus if we care too much. I just have to hold on until tomorrow night. Another warning about my battery. I dismiss it and scramble to leave, grabbing my jacket flung in the corner of my 11-foot by 11-foot box-like unit to reach a charging port on time. I don't notice Auntie Nawani's entrance until she's long pushed her way into my unit's narrow space. I almost curse out loud as I mentally make a note to fix the lock. Auntie Nawani hovers by my elbow, trying to plug the clock she found last week into the port in my arm. I should be annoyed, but a feeling of familiarity, the sense of family she has somehow built in our community over time, even if we have no blood relation, comforts me. Sometimes I want nothing more than to collapse into Auntie Nawani, but to show such weakness will only create bad, time-costing habits I can't afford. Right now, I don't have the patience or battery life to entertain the elder's requests. Cold sweat wells at the base of my neck, collecting in the collar of my shirt long due for a wash. Grime itches the parts of my back that remain skin rather than metal. I can almost hear my battery draining within me as the seconds tick past. Hold on a second. Just hold on a second. I don't have a second. Our arms flail, and I narrowly miss her head at the same time she accidentally sucker punches my shoulder. Cold air whisks down my lungs. I add shoulder plate to the list of replacements I will purchase when funds allow. She plugs the clock back in. The clock is precious to Auntie, but to me it only serves as a reminder of the time I'm losing, the stutters of my heart when the passing minutes appear as a looming countdown within my mind. The old thing had washed ashore, waterlogged, paint half gone, with the seconds hand missing. A great find, she explained, even though she'd cut herself on the jagged edges of rocks, and soiled her shoes trying to reach it by the edge of the lake. It never lasts long enough for the alarm to go off at the time she set it for. Sometimes I feel like the clock. My energy levels and brain capacity always coming to a halt when I need the limitations removed most. The choking suffocation of the imminent burnout, a faceless entity chasing me from behind with shadowy fingers, always just brushing the small of my back. I keep reminding her to toss it, to get a new watch, one that tells time without stuttering, but she never has. The protective coating of the broken clock's wire is barely there, like flesh hanging from exposed bones. If unlucky, we both could be electrocuted. Look at how wonderful it is, Auntie Nawani insisted. There is a story behind this clock. Auntie, I swat her hand away once more, impulsively checking my battery again and again with each staccato movement. Just because I'm a cyborg, she sees me as both an endearing youth and a tool for her use. But sometimes it feels as though the latter is truer than the former. Here, in the city of Emmett, we're more valuable as tools than humans. Hush, child, she says, frowning, looking at me as if I'm the one in the wrong. I don't want her to know she is leaving me on the verge of death. My palms clam up, sweat beads at my forehead as I look for a way to leave without being rude. Guilt claws at me when Auntie Nawani makes a disappointed pout. She acts more like she's 7 rather than 70. I wish to be as carefree as she. The light above us flickers. Outside, the rest of the unit's electricity goes out. I check my Bluetooth connection that helps power all the other units. Disconnected. My aid all started as a way to make some extra cash on the side, but over time somehow just became a favor I did for everyone. Whether it's compassion or guilt or pity, I much prefer to see everyone sharing what little resources we have, rather than hoarding everything myself. Electricity is a luxury you can barely afford on the outskirts of Emmett. These shelters were not built by the government, but by those who couldn't afford the property rent in the city, but they still charge us. A few of our neighbors peek out of their units. Some climb onto the intricate metal staircases that connect our honeycomb-like community under the bridge that stretches from the mouth of the city Emmett, across the lake, leading into barren, infertile land. Many of us prefer it to the bustling noises of the city. With the city's overpopulation, they've begun building homes and shelters wherever there is space, digging underground, growing upwards, or, like our homes, under the bridge attached to its legs. There used to be houseboats floating across the lake, until New Era's monopoly over all industries. They claimed the body of water as their own and complained about floating bodies and debris after heavy storms. They don't care about the dead, only the cost of fishing the corpse out and the resources to return them to their families. To New Era, people might as well be the plastic bottles floating in the lakes. Before those bioengineered to consume garbage in efforts to clean the growing landfills began risking their lives to fish them out of the water. Roaches. I wonder what names they might give people like me. A thundering of steps echoes towards my unit. It was no doubt Nemo making her way in a zigzag up the 3 flights separating our homes. I check my battery again, 7%. I? The young child pops her head in. Normally her mother Lei stops her from visiting too frequently, but the young child latched onto me as though I'm her older sister, ever since her mother began taking on extra shifts at work. Nemo pulls out her drone controller, a small thing the community pulled together to buy her, and lands the machine by her feet. From its body, a hologram pops up, and a shiny gold coin displays what I'll need to pay the government this month. Then, it switches to a hovering diamond that holds the remaining debt I owe. I nudge past Nemo and swallow the hurt expression that warps her joyous face and leave Auntie Nawani still cross-legged on my bare futon. In the distance above us, at the end of the bridge that divides the tech-drenched city and our honeycomb home, Emmett's glow is unwavering. Its skyscrapers claw into the clouds, the tops unseen, a city that progresses and moves at a speed too fast for many of our minds. Most of the others refuse to pay for the upgrades, designed to remain more human. Not me. Being human reminds me of my parents and the fragility of our minds and bodies, the way New Era drained their lives' hourglass among other workers at double speed. No doubt their worries about leaving me with my aunt as a child accelerated their burnout. I cannot afford the same. Leaving for work again? Auntie Nawani fidgets with the clock. Why she always sets it for 5 p.m., I'll never know. I'm never home until 10:30, at least. Yes, I say in a rush, focusing on the beckoning allure of my watch. Still 7%, but it won't remain the same for long. Before, it might take up to half an hour just to drain to 1%. I often wish I could live simply like Auntie Nawani and the others, thriving on what they grow near the bank along the lake, away from the prying eyes of the Emmett government, taking up odd jobs when available, but I can't. None of it pays enough, nor are the hours consistent. Not anymore. I think of Auntie Nawani and how she might spend the day. Sometimes she mentions cleaning for the New Era towers, or the barely lived in homes of some techies, offering her services for cheaper than what they would pay machines. But what makes her services unique are the songs she sings, the shaking notes, the occasionally off-pitched tunes that fill the towers and homes with something other than the hum of electricity, a voice I sometimes catch as I drift to sleep each night. She makes just enough to get by and has no desire to climb any social or econo- economic ladder after being replaced by music machines and bots at the karaoke hubs and scattered bars when they first appeared. Her only desire is to sing for those who might appreciate real music. I used to want the same, for someone to simply appreciate the stories I write, even if flawed, with loopholes, inconsistent characters, endings with and openings barely hanging on like threads. But when my parents passed, all they left me was their endless debt and memories that bombarded my mind at night. I see the hardships my parents went through as techies for New Era, images of their early passing, being shuttled out of New Era's main tower, father only 30 at the time, mother 29, and I was only 7. I still have vivid dreams of the many deaths that day, the injustices when New Era offered the families of the dead nothing but a written letter of insincere apology, and the protesters. Almost as soon as they gathered, their efforts were suppressed by New Era security. Protests are rare now, if any. If I could wipe myself of these memories, I would. The holographic ads hovering above the New Era owned buildings in Emmett come to mind. Brain replacements are the best option for the tired mind. Then again, which buildings are not owned by New Era? They offered me a job, too, New Era, but I still haven't taken them up on their offer, even after years of blistering skin, the shiver of rising goosebumps tightening, contracting across my limbs in the middle of the cold of the dead season. On the verge of hypothermia, I still refused. My work isn't so different from New Era and pays far less, but it isn't as mindless and repetitive. There is always the pressure to be perfect, to limit errors to the level of AI 0.001%. Or is it 0.0001% now? But limiting errors also means taking away style, and the systems aren't as good with coming up with anything unique and often draw on what already exists and the cliches. Most are content with the creative text AIs produce, though there are still those who prefer more authentic voices, yet almost none of those people are willing to pay the price. Some large corporations might seek out people like me once in a while when they're looking for something fresh, never before seen. Contrary to what they hoped, not as many artists and writers jump at the chance to work for them. Some do, but it can be such soulless and tightly controlled work. 6%. Thank you.